everyone, welcome again to the Immortality Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Jake, here with Josh. How's it going, Josh?
Hello, Jake. I'm doing all right.
So today we're going to have something actually new that we've never quite done before. This may look like your average green tea here, but it's not. It's actually a yellow tea, which is, in fact, a distinct class of tea. Of course, all tea is defined by its processing. You know, all the classifications of tea, green tea is unoxidized, white tea is partially oxidized, no kill grain, oolongs half oxidized about, ranges, black tea fully oxidized, pu'er fermented, yada yada. But yellow tea is distinct. It's close to green tea, and we'll talk about what makes it special in just a moment here. So this one we're calling Huo Shan Yellow Buds. Huo Shan Meigui is the full name in Chinese. Huo Shan is where it's from. So as always, I rinse the brew vessels, heat the brew vessels with the hot water. As always, I spill a little tea on the table. I weighed this to about 8 grams. So it should be about 8 grams of yellow tea right there. This one you're going to want to treat similarly to a green tea. It's delicate, it's light, just small little buds, as you can see. Mostly just like the very tender tips of the tea, early spring plucking. And I'm going to brew this. I measured this water at a little below 190 degrees, which is a little on the hot side, but that shouldn't matter too much. I'm just going to do a slightly faster steeping on it. I'm going to try to keep the leaves out of the direct water. I'm pouring kind of around the leaves so that I don't scald them. I've been kind of on a kick recently about how temperature and brew time doesn't really matter that much. This one I'm just going to steep for a moment. Water is relatively hot. You can obviously cool it down to your preference. I kind of prefer the stronger extraction that the hot water is going to give us, though.
So the yellow tea, you're basically treating it like a green tea.
Basically.
And then is it a little more delicate than a green tea? Or like where would you put it on delicacy?
I wouldn't say it's more delicate. I would say it's about as delicate.
Wow.
So before I talk about too much about it, I want to taste it and just see how you think it tastes differently than a green tea, or what's different about it. So, what do you think just off the bat? What are your initial impressions?
Hold on, I'm gonna get to the end and I'm gonna smell the cup because I feel like
okay, yeah. That's the other kick we've been on recently is cup smelling.
If you take how green tea can sometimes have a stronger middle note, or whatever that green tea note is, it can be stronger in the middle. What happens if you take out the middle note of green tea and it's just like the high aromatics? And I don't know. That's what I
think you basically hit the nail on the head there. Yeah. So the idea of yellow tea is that there's like a very slight oxidation step right before it's finished. Otherwise, it's very similar to green tea. They're dried, fried, rolled, and baked. But they do have one additional step between the rolling and the baking, in which the leaves are wrapped in a cloth or paper sack and cooked at a low heat. And that causes like a very, very partial oxidation. And the idea is that takes away some of the grassy flavor. So it should be a little less grassy than a green tea, but still preserving like the high notes, like you said, and the sweetness. They tend to be a little bready. Again, they're interesting. It's an interesting tea because it is very close to green tea, but it is technically in a class of its own.
It's like it's a mellower version of green tea. It's like they mellowed out all the notes in green tea that you think of as like, oh, I taste that kind of grassy, earthy note.
It is grassy. It's a little grassy, but it's kind of more approaching like a straw or hay quality. It's not like that, quite like that fresh grass. It's more of like a earthy kind of sweet grass. I don't know.
That's a good
I think exactly
parallel.
Sweet grass, actually.
Yeah, that's totally a parallel of like fresh cut grass, and maybe that's what the green tea is. But then this is more like the dried grass when it's all dried out and it's like just all the moisture has been removed from it.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting too because it's smooth and you can taste the grass, but then that grass flavor quickly goes away and it goes to those higher notes of like hay, sweetness, sweet grass, very much sweet grass. I mean, it's almost odd. Like if you told me this was a green tea, I would just say, no, it's like way smoother and it's got these like other notes in it. But if I was a green tea drinker, you could probably tell me this was a green tea and I wouldn't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
It's interesting, right?
So how was yellow tea discovered or even made? Is it new or recent?
No, it's old. It's an older class of tea for sure. It has this tea has a pedigree dating at least back to the 14th century. So like really, really early in loose leaf tea's history. It's just kind of, you don't see it a lot because it's kind of trickier to make. You know, it does need to be like early harvest material. And yeah, like I said, there's like, it's like green tea, but with like an extra step, so even more work than green tea. And I see yellow teas every now and then, but it's pretty rare that I find one that's like actually kind of special and interesting. Like either it's like a gimmick or you are getting like the real thing, which is hard because like I said, you have to use very specific material and not a lot of people know how to make this kind of tea.
You know, it's interesting because you would use the same leaf as in a green tea. Mm-hmm. And then you would just process it different. So the farmers have to know like, oh, this is going to be perfect green tea. Oh, you know what? Mm-hmm. This leaf is looking like versus a green tea. We should try a yellow with it. So it's like, I wonder what that little bit of knowledge is that goes, this raw material should be used for yellow versus green.
Well, this area is specifically known for like this kind of tea. This is like what they're famous for. It's something that people do seek out, so it's like worth it for them to make it.
What area is this made in?
Oh, it's in Anhui.
Okay.
Anhui, yeah. And Huo Shan is a county in Anhui. Huo Shan yellow buds, like where it's from and like within what it is. Yeah, so this is a nice like very classic spring tea, like Chinese spring tea profile. I think it's really nice. It's not going to be like a long steep or anything. It's not going to be like the aged white we had on last episode where you could just essentially infinite steeps. This one's going to be like 4 or 5 good steeps in a gaiwan.
So then this one will kind of be like a green tea. It's going to be a shorter, steeper.
Exactly. And this one would be good for grandpa style. It would be good in the pot. It would be good cold brewing. This is probably like, I probably wouldn't even really use a gaiwan unless I was like, tasting this one specifically and like trying to like really get the nuances out. Otherwise, I think I would tend more towards like pot or grandpa style.
That's interesting too, because I think people who drink green tea normally know about that green tea bitterness, and that green tea bitterness really is in lower quality green teas. And when we talk about it, it's more earthy. Like that bitterness is more earthy and more grassy. But I think that people who like green teas and they don't like that bitterness of the green tea, yellow tea is for you. And then even like the American style of like teapot, leave the leaves in there forever. I don't think these leaves are going to get bitter. But I don't know. I mean, if we steep it longer, we might know. Yeah,
I would use cooler water in a teapot. Again, I'm kind of pushing it here. I'm flying a little close to the sun with my 190 degree water right now.
So then, what would the perfect temperature for this be if you wanted to
in a teapot? 175.
Nice.
That would be like the classic, if baseline. So yeah.
I mean, it's fascinating.
I really like it though. It's round. It's sweet. Like this is a good most green teas don't taste this good on the 4th steep, to be perfectly honest.
No, they go straight grassy or like that bitter.
This isn't very astringent though. It's sweet and round still.
So how would you suggest this tea for tea drinkers?
So I would suggest this for anyone who knows they're a fan of kind of like classic Chinese green teas, spring teas specifically. If you haven't had a yellow, or if you've had a few and maybe aren't as impressed, then I would recommend this one because it's interesting because, I don't know that it's going to like knock anyone's socks off, but it creeps up and it is like, it's interesting. Like it's very satisfying to drink too. It's very round, but at the same time is like kind of unpretentious. It's just like a nice spring tea. So I think people who are fans of green, looking for antioxidants, who love Chinese profiles, are gonna like just drink this up.
Yeah, totally. And then I think some people are afraid of green teas, and I
Sure.
know before I started drinking green teas with the Immortality podcast, I kind of stayed away from them because of the bitterness, and I was like, "What is that bitterness? It's grassy, but it's not." It's,
The bitterness is people brewing it wrong.
yeah, yeah. No, totally. So I was brewing it wrong, whereas with this one, there's none of that. I mean, it's almost like, maybe this is the green tea for stupid tea drinkers.
I
because
think yeah. No offense, but it is a little more forgiving than most green teas for that reason.
Yeah, really forgiving. And then also, if you like herbal teas and then you're looking for something light but on the green side, but not like 100% into the realm of green, this hits, the broth is lighter and it's more floral. It's got the high notes. So you might like it if you like herbal teas, but you don't like the weirder qualities of a green tea. But yeah, I think green tea lovers are going to freak out over this.
Yeah, this is good. It's energizing. It's gentle. I think this is like a perfect like midday tea, especially on like a hotter day. I could just like imagine like taking like a break in the sun from work and like having like a pot of this.
And there are still some nice subtleties in this. Like on this last steep that we're drinking now, I almost tasted a plum.
Sure.
It's very weird. I did not expect that.
I don't know though. This is the last steep. This is 5, which usually is when I stop a green tea, but it's tasting good to me still.
Yeah, I just got plum again, or whatever that. It could be plum, could be like a mild pear.
I can see what you're saying. Yeah, like there's a slight fruit quality. I think that's a product of like how round it is and how sweet it is.
Yeah, it's like whatever that middle note was, basically in the processing evolved to sweet or just a lighter shot.
God, this is just like such a nice. I don't know, this is such a nice, easy drinker though.
Yeah, no, this is a good one. I like how we're drinking this one the third, because it's almost like with all the other teas, like you could drink this one and not need to eat food with it because it's light. I will say it is still increasing your metabolism.
Yeah, I would say like the last 2 episodes we had an aged white and a black dragon well. Those were like the black dragon one was very energizing. It was nice. The white was like it was kind of borderline psychedelic for me. But this is just like so satisfying. Like I said, it would be so nice to just like have a pot of this on like a hot afternoon.
If I could compare it to your friend group, it's like hanging out with a friend who's easy to talk to. They aren't annoying, and they just let silence flow in between the words, and they don't feel the need to fill the space. It's just like, here I am, mellow yellow.
Yeah, actually, should I change the name of the listing? That's pretty good.
I mean, I don't know. Hold on. What is this called now in the listing?
Call me mellow yellow.
I mean, I'm very impressed. I mean, I understand why they made it now, actually.
Maybe maybe the cheese creeping up on me, but this just like makes me want to cry. This is such a beautiful tea.
Is there anything else you think people should know about yellow tea?
Just I would be cautious in buying yellow tea. I think there's a lot out there that's kind of like gimmicky that I've had anyway, that people have shared with me. I've just been like not very impressed by, or like whatever. I think they just bought this because it was yellow and different. So I would be careful in buying yellow tea. This one is from somewhere authentic. You don't have to buy your teas from us. Obviously, there are plenty of purveyors who do good work in tea. But I would just make sure wherever you do, if you're interested in trying yellow tea, that it is from somewhere in China that knows, or elsewhere that knows what they're doing. Somewhere with like a history and a pedigree. That is what I would do, because like I said, I think a lot of the times it can be a bit of a gimmick. So make sure you're getting the real stuff if you want to be like actually have like the kind of like nice, enjoyable experience that we're having here.
I totally agree with Jake when it comes to that level of making sure your tea comes from the right place. I will say, though, I only buy my tea from Trident Teas and Cafe. And the reason is because I've tried to buy from other places in the past, and just you only get burnt once or twice before you're like, you know what? No. This is not premier grade. Oh, no. you know what? This isn't even Long Feng Xia. And so at some point you just realize the people in the tea business are there to basically make money off of tea and like exploit the information you don't know about the tea specifically. Whereas what I like about Trident Cafe and Teas is
we try to be as upfront as possible.
And then the unique fact about Trident Cafe and Teas is there was a point in time when cafes and tea purveyors and tea sellers were importing teas, and everybody had the choice to go with a low grade, middle grade, or high grade supply chain. The majority of the people in the United States stopped at middle grade.
Oh yeah.
And basically,
if that.
yeah. And then once you stop at middle grade, you cut off the direct relationship with the farmers, with the processors, with the people who know the tea from the beginning of its life all the way through to the teacup.
Yeah.
And what Trident did was they always stuck with the high grade, the middle to high grade, and everything in between there, so that they could maintain their direct relationship with farmers, so that they could be on the cutting edge of tea quality as well as provenance. Because when you want these teas and you need to get them, there will be a lot of people selling imposter teas or teas that came from somewhere close, but you have to know the farmer in the area. So for me, I only really trust Trident Cafe and Teas, and then when I do find something new, then I'll kind of reach around there. Or if I find something new, I'll actually ask Peter or Jake, the main tea importers at Trident Cafe and Teas, to find a tea that's really what it's supposed to be. So like, I've just been burnt in the past too many times. So, use Trident Tea and Cafe as a good resource, because they're a great resource for all the tea lovers in the world, really.
Yeah, thank you. I think this yellow tea has us waxing poetic, though.
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely
it's interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting psychological effect. Yeah, that black tea was so energizing and the white tea was so psychedelic, but now this one is just so like.
I like how we kind of went through the color spectrum of tea.
I know,
we went
these last 3 episodes.
Black, white, Chumé, which was aged like a pu'er,
yeah.
and then had black qualities but still white qualities.
Yeah, gray tea. I don't know.
And then we got this yellow tea, which is
Exactly.
somewhere like green but not.
Yeah. We're kind of playing with the boundaries here, playing in the margins. Again, everyone, in case you don't know, you can find this tea and others like it at tridentcafe.com/teas or in the shop on Pearl Street in Boulder. Well, everyone, thank you so much once again for joining us. Good luck steeping out there.
Good luck on your tea journeys.
Cheers.